session. Welcome you back from lunch. I hope everybody is satisfied and ready to dig into our next workshop. We are here today in the Brunswick Room to learn information in action with New Jersey Career Connections. And we are pleased to have with us Bob Grimmie, who is the Executive Director for the New Jersey Career Connections and Workforce Operations, and his team. Self-introduction.
Oh, wonderful. David Ramsey, Division of Workforce Research and Analytics with the Department of Labor.
Hi, I'm Patty Davis. I'm the User Experience Manager of the New Jersey Career Connections website.
And I'm Jason Timian. I'm a labor market analyst with the Department of Labor and Workforce Development, the Office of Research and Information.
So thank you so much for being here with us today, and we hope to learn a whole lot about the Career Connections. The labor market is increasingly complex and fast-moving. Success, whether the goal is immediate employment or developing a long-term career plan, requires a dynamic approach centered around reliable information and high-yield actions. In this section, members of New Jersey's Department of Labor and Workforce Development will discuss resources and strategies that career guidance professionals can use to help their students make the right plan, prepare themselves, and succeed in their career goals. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Good afternoon. There's a couple of elements of that introduction that I think are very important foundational pieces for what we want to talk about this afternoon. Job search, or the act of looking for work and planning for work, can happen with varying levels of intensity, right? You are likely to encounter students who both need a job right now or are looking to get into the workforce right away, or maybe have a little more time and interest in a longer planning and career discussion. So what we want to focus on with our time this afternoon are strategies and resources to help students do both. We began our Career Connections work in earnest probably about 3 years ago. There was evidence at that time that our economy was improving, but yet many of our customers that we see throughout our one-stop career centers and also through our partner relationships, despite the improvements in the economy, customers were still having a difficult time navigating the labor market. And we wanted to do analysis as to understand why, right? What were the barriers? Why were people struggling in the labor market? And we came to a couple of important realizations that we'll discuss going forward. Most notably, that New Jersey both benefits and struggles from having a very large network of contributors to workforce development, right? We have a lot of organizations, right? Your colleges, high schools, our organization, all of our one-stop career centers, and a litany of community-based organizations, nonprofits, faith-based organizations, our partners at throughout the state library system. There were a lot of people contributing, which is great, right? There's a positive there. But what we were also finding as we analyzed why people were struggling to navigate the labor market is they were getting a lot of different information, a lot of different guidance, different tactics. And in addition to that, which caused some wasted motion for customers and really was stunting their work search, we also found that people were really relying on dated practices of work search. Large chunks of time spent just looking at jobs online, submitting resumes online, and those are low-yield activities. Ambitious estimates from places like Monster and Career Builder still have the success rate of those online searches exclusively in the single digits, percentage-wise. So there's a lot of effort being output in things that don't necessarily have positive results. So we wanted to put some real energy around bringing together this information and offering our partners and customers a central place where they could get more up-to-date work search information and layer in the labor market information that's so important for planning. It was a daunting task, so our research led us to 5 cornerstone beliefs, and one is that the labor market is increasingly complex and fast-moving. That's number one. We heard our commissioner in his keynote address talk to this. The skills that people need are ever evolving, how companies hire, how companies retain talent, how they evaluate. The labor market is very, very complex. So being rooted in some of these historic dogmas was no longer, or was particularly limiting for people in the labor market. Also, brought on, in fact, certainly by the Great Recession, was a reality that at all point in our lives, New Jerseyans are going to need assistance with career development, right? So if you imagine our perspective from the Department of Labor and Workforce Development, many of our customers come to us through the channel of having received from our state some measure of unemployment insurance benefits, and they're unemployed and we're working to get them back. But what we see across the whole network of partners, and is very true of the interactions that you guys have, it's customers of all levels and all ranges of experience who are looking for what that next transition is. What is the next right job for them? How do they build a career? How do they advance? So the idea that tactics should be focused, and this was very important for us, tactics should be focused on just one particular audience, was also limiting, right? This is really something that everyone needs access to. And we also had to help people develop the skills necessary to not just get a job, but also manage their careers. Number 4 is that individuals look to a wide variety of institutions and organizations when they are looking for career assistance, right? That ties into this large network that we saw. Customers go where they're most comfortable, right? That is a truism in the private sector, and it's certainly something that we saw during the Great Recession in particular. Our state library partners designated 125 library branches as specifically job seeker branches, right? That was a huge number and was really telling for us, and they did that because the need was there. Their customers were walking in the door asking librarians for help looking for work, right? And of course we see this in the nonprofit space, faith-based community organizations. People go where they're most comfortable, and that could be a great advantage to us as a collective system if we embrace it. Which is why we came to number 5. By harnessing our collective expertise, we can improve the career guidance and work search assistance. I think you see that really coming to fruition in events like this. In events like both Larry Nespoli and our commissioner referred to earlier in the day, the 65 by 25 initiative, Many Paths, One Future, really looking to align the efforts of our K-12 institutions, our higher ed institutions, both at the 4-year and 2-year level, the Department of Labor. This is a problem that we all share, and we're going to do a heck of a lot better job solving it if we work together and collaborate. So our Career Connections initiative is 3 things. It's a service model, which we'll talk more about as we go along. The service model exists for the purpose of taking all of the different types of tips and feedback and information about work search and career planning and organizing it in a user experience designed, easy to navigate way. When I turn things over to my colleague Patty for a demonstration towards the end of our website, you'll see how we piece this together. The network of partners is something that we're working on every single day, right? Who's talking to customers? How are they helping them? How can we as an agency support what they're doing for their customers? How can we bring more information and points of contact under one umbrella? And then of course the website. Website serves, I would say, 2 purposes for us. One is it gives us a very easily accessible resource that we can reach any number of interested parties. And it also serves as a supportive tool for anyone offering face-to-face service, right? As we deal with our workforce system collectively helps the most diverse population of people imaginable. Everyone in the state who comes to us, our door is open. And a good number of those people simply are not as comfortable with technology as to use it independently at home or to have a technology interface be their sole source of information. They want to sit and talk to someone, which is great. And our website gives that face-to-face counselor a tool that they can use to really guide the conversation in a consistent way. So our service model. I mentioned earlier that job seekers were spending a lot of time on low yield practices or old habits, right? They just see a Monster commercial, so they go and look for work by firing resumes out through Monster. We began a process of information gathering with our own staff who work with our own frontline staff who work with customers every day, partner locations, surveying national experts and trends to figure out what do we see collectively as the most effective tactics that a customer can use to get a job. And we wanted to design our service model around promoting these things without, when you see the service model being so blunt as to say, do X. The service model is structured in a way to allow people the opportunity to do these things. One of them is to accept change. And my next slide will go through these in more detail. So accept change, take care of yourself, connect with people, make a plan, be your own spokesperson, and embrace technology. So accept change, right? Think about the cornerstone belief number one. The labor market is increasingly complex and fast moving. That's okay. In many ways, the labor market has always been in evolution. We certainly are tempted to think about whatever time period we're living in now as being somehow unique or special, but evolution always occurs. We have to accept it and realize that maybe some of the things that we've heard over the years are no longer true. We really grapple with, in our one-stop career centers, a perception from our customers that they're reluctant to take a job if it's not the right job, right? And we see this very much in, particularly for customers who have professional accomplishments under their belt, right? And they want their next job to be the very next right thing. Well, BLS data now suggests that the average person will have 11 and a half jobs throughout their career, right? That's a big number, and that's a very important thing to accept, right? The idea that you have one or two or three employers throughout your life is not the reality, and this is trending up, right? As companies get more dynamic, more people are relying on provisional employment, contracting, things of that nature. But from not just a planning standpoint, but from a tactical standpoint, accepting that it's okay if your next job isn't the job is a very important emotional hurdle. We also need to encourage people to take care of themselves. Now, and this is very true for our customers in many cases, and also many of the customers that engage our system through faith-based organizations, nonprofits, but it's certainly likely to be true for, particularly in the college space, many transitioning adults who are coming through. If someone is experiencing unemployment, underemployment, other forms of financial or personal distress, Princeton did a lengthy study in our state a few years ago, and it showed that the symptoms of long-term unemployment, the symptoms of this type of duress, mirror those of people who have been diagnosed with clinical depression. And those symptoms, the temptation to withdraw, loss of confidence, things of that nature, can be, I wouldn't go so far as to say debilitating, but they certainly don't put someone in the right frame of mind to execute a quality job search and put their best foot forward in an interview. So we have to give people almost the permission to take care of themselves. If you're looking for work, it's okay if you're doing other things that aren't looking for work. And in fact, many of those other activities probably will have a better long-term yield for you than simply sitting at a computer firing off resumes or scanning job boards. One of the main reasons is that connecting with people is a tremendously important way that people are finding employment. Quick show of hands. How many of you have heard the phrase the hidden job market? Okay. Thank you. It's a good number. For those who haven't heard the phrase, you may have heard it referred to in any number of other ways, but the hidden job market refers to jobs that are filled by companies before ever having been advertised publicly, or having never been advertised publicly at all. That's what's referred to as the hidden job market, and I will encourage my labor market colleagues to correct me on this if in fact it's changed, but to my knowledge we haven't found a single percentage of hidden jobs that we've locked in on and said that's the number, but we have seen estimates anywhere in the 35 to 55% of all jobs filled would fall under that category of the hidden job market, right? That's a huge percentage. So if people aren't out connecting with people to learn about those opportunities, they're already cutting themselves out of a large portion of the labor market. We encourage people to focus on activities that really expand their personal network. And it's worth noting, we'll see more of this in the demo, but a lot of people aren't comfortable with what they perceive to be networking. A lot of people also, it seems that networking still carries with it a connotation of being maybe more just for white-collar jobs, right? If you have people in influential positions in your network, you can ask them for help, or if you went to college, maybe you have alumni networks, things of that nature. But we know that jobs are filled all across the spectrum, from entry level up through executive, through this referral, hidden networked job market. So encouraging people to just really connect with their communities and feel comfortable having that conversation of asking for help is very important. Make a plan, right? All of our time is valuable. And the energy, since we are asking, because we're encouraging people who are looking for work, who are planning their career, to not just fire away resumes and throw caution to the wind and see what happens. We're encouraging people to take a more strategic approach. So you've got to take the time to do that, right? Engage the labor market. If you need assistance, talk to people. Use the tools that you're comfortable with. But make a plan and spend your time on activities that are moving you in the direction you want to be going in. Be your own spokesperson. Nobody should be more invested in your success than you. And if you are uncomfortable or unable to speak positively about yourself and your value and what you can bring to an organization, that's going to be limiting when you have an opportunity to interview with someone, right? If you don't believe your value, you're going to have a hard time convincing an HR professional or a hiring manager of your value. And this is also because a lot of people aren't comfortable with what they might consider to be bragging, or circumstances of their life have made them feel less certain about themselves. We really need to give people the tools and practice and encouragement to be ready to be your own spokesperson at a moment's notice, right? Always be willing to put your best foot forward. And then the final element that we saw time and time again was embrace technology. Now, I mentioned earlier that we know for a fact that some of our people are not going to want to use technology for their work search, right? They're going to prefer a human interaction. That's great. We want to have the right people for them to talk to. We want to have the tools available for those people to have that go successfully. But it is important that someone develop a baseline comfort with technology, because some companies won't even let you apply manually anymore, right? You have to use a digital application. How companies are managing their workforce is increasingly dependent upon some type of technology, right? It may be proprietary, maybe it's a hand scanner, but the world of work is so or I should say, the technology is so inclusive in the world of work that if someone is afraid and resistant to technology just because they haven't gotten comfortable with it yet, that could be a limitation. So we're not expecting, nor are we attempting to turn everybody into computer programmers, but we just don't want it to be a barrier to their success. So our service model, as our commissioner mentioned earlier, has three main components: plan, prepare, succeed. Right? It's simple. Think about that. I mentioned all of the different contributors to the workforce system. We want to have information available to people that can be repeated and be consistently delivered across all those different systems so that our shared customers don't feel like they're starting from scratch with each new person they talk to. So we really wanted to simplify it. It's plan, prepare, and succeed. And then underneath each of these elements of the service model, there are some specifics. Under plan, we want to take our users from know your finances all the way up through lifelong career success. And we also wanted to design this in a way that will allow customers to pick and choose. Right? Everybody comes to this conversation at a different place in their life. And they also come to it with different ways of thinking and ways of doing things. Right? We don't all organize information the same way. We all don't search for information the same way. If you have, and we didn't want this to be prescriptive. We wanted it to be organized, be able to be done consistently, but allow our customers who are comfortable to sort of decide for themselves what information they want to learn more about and in what time and at what stage of the process. That's really what's at the heart of user experience. Right? Patty mentioned her job title is User Experience Manager. Creating a website and a service model that is evolving consistently, determined by the needs of the users and their experience, is vital to allowing people to feel very comfortable engaging your product as a customer and as a partner. And people think about things in very different ways. This is sequential and abstract if you guys have ever heard those terms before, but like if you gave two people a bookshelf from IKEA, has anyone ever shopped at IKEA? Show of hands. All right, so you know where I'm going with this. I have a ton of half-built IKEA stuff in my home and a drawer of screws and Allen wrenches that are one day probably going to be evidence of my neglect when someone in my home is injured. But if you give two people a bookshelf from IKEA in the box and you put them in different rooms and you said, build me a bookshelf, right? You have one sort of set of people and personalities who are going to take out all the parts and align them, however the directions recommend. They'll count all the pieces in advance, and then they'll start following the directions step by step, and they will build you a bookshelf. Right? And we have a whole host of other people who will dump all the parts out on the ground, prop the box up against the wall so they can see the picture, and dive right into it. Both people may very well produce a viable bookshelf. But that's the mentality of user experience. They're going to go about it in different ways. Our web product, our service model, is designed to allow people who think about things in very different ways to still have access to the information in a way that's most comfortable to them. So we mentioned that we have a lot of different contributors to our system. And in the current but evolving state, it's often dependent upon the customer to choose where they go, which is great, right? We know that. Customers will go where they're most comfortable. The challenge becomes when these entities aren't in collaboration with one another. And that's when the customer starts to have a disjointed experience or have to duplicate efforts or not be aligned. We want to advocate the use of our new website to establish a shared vocabulary and a set of tools. And our network building team is working on identifying all of these different points of intersection, all of the different places where the customer has an experience with us, and bring them into the service model. And then we're also working to improve a referral process. right? To help a customer feel like they are a part of one continuous experience. Even if they're dealing with 5 different entities, we want to make sure we have a system in place where we can refer customers fluidly from place to place, and that experience just picks up right where they left off, regardless of where they are. So we've developed a series of training programs. We've launched our Navigator training program, and we're in development with our Coaches training program. The idea of having 2 different training levels, if you will, is that within our system, we ourselves have different levels of professional experience and different types of engagement with our customers. Navigator training would be a baseline training, right? That's the tools, that's the vocabulary, understanding the service model, right? Can we offer our customers a continuous experience with that navigator, or pardon me, as a navigator? This is something that our librarians have been going through with us. Staff who works with customers in faith-based organizations. We want them to at least have navigator training through a partnership that we've developed with the Division of Children and Families, who go into the homes of their customers, for very intimate support. They came to us and said, look, we're there to help with the newborn. We're here to help prenatally and postnatally and up to a certain age, but we always get the same questions. Right? These families are always struggling with income. They're always struggling with employment. That's why we're here. And they find themselves having advising and job search conversations. So they came to us and said, can you help? We said, we would love to. So we're training all of their home aides, home visitors, in the navigator training, so that when they go out, they're more prepared. The coaches training is going to be for those real counseling and advising professionals who sit down and can spend a period of time with a customer, identify transferable skills. That's the different levels that we're moving on. Our objective is to take the original experience, the feel of the original experience, and bring it into something more like this, where the customer is now navigating seamlessly their online experience, their mobile experience. So it was important to us when we developed the Career Connections website that it be optimized for a mobile experience. We certainly know that while the digital divide is shrinking, customers that we encounter and customers who we meet through partnerships with nonprofits and other community organizations, if they're coming from a lower economic situation, it's more likely that their mobile phone is their primary access point to the internet. So optimizing our services and optimizing our message for that platform is very important. I am now going to turn things over to my colleagues, and then we can do Q&A at the conclusion of our presentation. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Great. And everybody's anxious to get home, but we have some more good information for you. So Bob spoke to the Department of Labor, how we kind of, through Career Connections, intend to engage those who are seeking jobs and careers and those seeking to advance in their career. I'm going to speak briefly kind of to the other half of the coin. So how we engage employers and industry and other workforce professionals in their careers and moving forward.
Arrow to the right.
Arrow to the right. Sorry. Here we go. So just by way of background, in 2016, the Department of Labor completed a combined state plan which essentially laid out how we're going to move forward with our workforce development activities over the next few years. And this is just a bit from that state plan. So Commissioner Fichter this morning spoke about New Jersey's recovery from the recession and how we're moving forward. And this is talks a bit about how we're going to continue with that recovery and try to improve on that recovery. So New Jersey has built a talent development system that is ensuring more people have the skills, abilities, and connections to pursue economic opportunities and ensuring that the state has the skilled workforce needs to support and sustain economic growth. And the talent development system speaks to a number of things. So new partnerships with employers across the state's 7 key industries, and I'm going to speak to that specifically in a moment. Strong collaboration between workforce programs, education, and higher ed. The use of technology, better labor market intelligence, which Jason is going to speak to directly, and innovative partnerships between the state, local governments, community, and faith-based organizations and educational institutions. So in essence, our job is we want to make sure that the skills and education of those who are seeking jobs align with the needs of employers. That's the goal in the end. Because we can merge those together, we can drive New Jersey's economy. Industry analysis. So as I said earlier, I'm the Director of Workforce Research and Analytics, and our division is responsible for 2 things. One, we do the federal reporting for our workforce development programs in the state. So we receive federal dollars to fund our workforce development programs in the state. So in turn, we have to report back to the federal government how well we're doing. So are people getting jobs? What are their median wage? What kind of credentials they're getting? What kind of other training are they getting? So we have to do that. And the other side of that is our Bureau of Labor Market Information. So our job is to provide labor market information to any key stakeholders in the state, depending on what they want. So there are specific reports that we publish on a yearly basis, and we also do ad hoc reporting. So we get calls from stakeholders anywhere through the state, from educators, from other workforce professionals to say, you know, I'd like some labor market analysis on a particular county, a particular city, and we can do that for them and do that for you as well. So New Jersey's commitment to investment and collaboration and talent development supports growth in key industry clusters that drive economic expansion. I'm going to speak to these very quickly. One of the great points I always like to make when I'm speaking to people is that one kind of on the 8th line down. The Garden State, our key clusters are within a day's drive of 40% of the U.S. population. That's an amazing number, and that puts New Jersey in a great position to drive their economy. So we have Newark, we have New York City right next door, we have Philadelphia right next door. We're within a 4-hour drive of Boston and Washington, D.C. So we're in a great position, and we have a great infrastructure. You can go from one end of the state to the other in a few hours. And a high density of residents who possess advanced degrees. So we're a very well educated population. So our 8 industries that we focus on, and I put a star next to number 8 because we added that just recently. So life sciences, transportation, logistics, and distribution, financial services, advanced manufacturing, healthcare, technology, leisure, hospitality, and retail, and now construction and utilities/energy. These 8 industries make up approximately 75% of the wages in the state, private sector wages, and private sector employment in our state. That's why we focus on these 8 industries. So when I say employment, I mean that 75% of people who work in the private sector, 75% of them work in one of these industries. And their wages account for 75% of the wages in those industries. So the Division of Workforce Research and Analytics, one of the ways which we get information to the public about our major industries is through these industry cluster reports. This is just an example of 4 of them. Again, we have 8 of them, and there's actually, this is not winter 2015, there's actually an update, winter 2016, so this is just an old slide. So we provide a detailed industry report for each of those 8 industries that I just talked about for use, and Jason will show you those a little later in his slide. So what I want to talk to you about is what exactly is contained in those reports. So our industry reports are generally divided into 8 sections, and for anybody who's in career guidance or who's in labor market information or who just wants more information about what the economy of the state looks like, these reports are a great example of where you can go. So one, an overview and highlight of the entire report. These reports are probably between 50 and 60 pages long, so a lot of great information. So industrial composition, the primary components and sub-industries classified within this. So for example, if you have advanced manufacturing, one of the subcomponents are food manufacturing and chemical manufacturing within the state. The economic impact, contribution to New Jersey's gross domestic product and employment. So in that industry, what is the value of all the goods and services that industry provides for our state. An industry analysis, so what are the employment trends, what has happened over the last few years, and what do we expect to happen in the future as far as employment in that industry is concerned. Distribution of sub-industries, annual wage, people are always interested in, if you have an active occupation in a certain industry, what do I hope to make, or what can I make in those jobs. Industry concentrations within the state, there are some places within the state where certain industries are concentrated. Financial services are concentrated in the northern part of the state, being closer to New York, and some in central, being closer to Philadelphia. Percentage of employment by county, so that's also important to career counselors. What part of an industry makes up the employment in my particular county, because we're a county, state, and also regional analysis. Occupational analysis, employment by occupation, by occupational group. So what groups of job titles exist in this industry, and where can I find them? The top occupations, so how many jobs in that occupation exist in the state, and where are they? And educational requirements, of course. And the last, subsector analysis, so the characteristics of the components within the industry. So we talk about what are the characteristics of advanced manufacturing as a whole, but we also break it down. So if we're talking about food manufacturing, what are the characteristics of that part of the industry? Demographic profile, so what is the composition of the industry by gender, race, and age? And an outlook. We also provide projections. So we give you a report for 2017, what can we expect to see 5 or 10 years later in that industry? What do the projections say? Talent networks. So again, in this talk, we want to talk about so how we approach industry, how we provide industry information to you. And the other part is the state has made, and Commissioner Fichter spoke to it earlier, a concerted effort to engage employers in industry throughout the state. And this is one of the ways by which we do it. Expanding high-quality employer-driven partnerships. So across the departments, New Jersey is focusing investments and programs on building employer-driven, and that's important, employer-driven, high-quality partnerships that follow a common definition and framework. So by virtue of that, we have the state's 7 industry-focused talent networks, which will facilitate the development of new high-quality employer-driven partnerships across the state. And kind of the 2 arms of that network are targeted industry partnerships, which I'll speak to, and the talent development centers. So there's a talent network for each of the 7 key industries that I talk about, and we're forming one for construction and utilities, which is the 8th in this upcoming program year. So let me speak to this first, talent development centers, and then I'll go to the talent targeted industry partnership. So the state of New Jersey, building on New Jersey's commitment to align the state's workforce with the needs of employers, have created these centers for excellence. So they've given grants, 900,000 state funds, to provide workforce development training programs in their respective industries. I don't know, is anybody from any of the colleges involved in this initiative? No? Okay. So they receive state funds to provide workforce development training programs in their respective industries. They serve as anchors for expanded high-quality employer-driven partnerships and further build the capacity of the state's higher education institutions to provide education and training. And also provide industry-focused training for dislocated workers, which are normally those who are laid off and terminated because of plant closure or for some other reason, and currently unemployed incumbent workers. So the 3 that we have at present are advanced manufacturing at Camden County College, healthcare at Rutgers University, and transportation, logistics, and distribution at Union County College. So the state has made funds available to kind of help with the development of career pathways in these 3 in particular, but as we move forward and ramp up this program, hopefully funds will be available to provide these type of career pathway initiatives for other industries within the state. Actually, I wanted to show you one thing on the talent networks from our website. I don't know if the mic's hot mic.
We have partners, as I said, at the United States Bureau of Labor Statistics and the U.S. Census Bureau. We collect information on 2 basic premises, where they live and where they work. So with that background, I'll show you a quick tour of our website. So this is our Department of Labor and Workforce Development landing page. You see we have our scrolling stories here, and soon I'm sure there'll be a picture of the commissioner from today. On this link here, labor market information is our landing page. And from here we have similar stories where our publications scroll. We have access to various types, or various links, which I'll show you in a minute. But first I want to show you over here, demographics. That's where you can access all the information on where people live. You can get information on population and household estimates, projections by age, by sex, by gender, or that's the same thing. Sorry. I'm trying to think of all the different variables there are. We have so many slices in our data that we can really break information down and tell you what percentage of white Hispanic males between 35 and 44 have X education. We have access to all kinds of information, and I feel like it's an underused resource that a lot of people aren't aware of. The American Community Survey serves as our annual survey of information in between each decennial census. So you know, every 10 years we have a decennial census where it's a full count of the population of New Jersey and the U.S. The ACS, the American Community Survey, serves as buffer zones in between those years to tell the story of how trends are moving in between. So in the link below, we have employment and wages, and this is where my group at the Office of Research and Information works. Here we have data available from the quarterly census of employment and wages. This is information taken directly from quarterly tax returns from each employer required by law. It's a census of all employment and wages. We get a full count by industry, by county. This is a great data resource. We have our current non-farm employment statistics. Everybody's seen in the paper on NJ.com, New Jersey added 12,000 jobs this month. This is the program where that statistic comes from. It's a census, or it's a survey of employers, and it's up to the month accurate. The same or a similar program runs unemployment rates and labor force estimates, again, up to the past month. Beyond that, we also have access to what we call real-time information. We partner with a company called Burning Glass, who is able to, they call it spidering from online job postings. So we can tell you up to yesterday the types of skills or jobs that employers are looking for over the past 30, 60, 90 days, any time frame you want. We have our industry and occupational employment projections. Those are 10-year projections that are done every 2 years. And lastly, we have our occupational employment statistics survey, where we tell by labor area what types of occupations people are working in, the level of employment, and how much they earn. So that, I wanted to show you that actually. So this is how we still publish, but this is how we solely used to publish our occupational information. Hopefully this opens quickly. So we used to publish books, 60, 70 pages thick of just tables and tables and tables of data. No analysis, no story. You had to be a mathematician to figure it out. Tables kind of like this, which are useful. They're useful for developers or data folks, but you have to know how to use the data. It scrolls on and on and on and on and on and on. 800 different occupations, the employment, the wages, different percentiles of wages, etc. Now, we have a report, an occupational employment and wages report, which, let's just go to construction, breaks down the data that we collect for all construction employers in the state. We can tell you that 60% are directly related with construction jobs. But you think construction, just it's guys in hard hats doing hard labor. There's 11% of the 16,000 people doing office work, another 16,000 making sure the machines still run, another 8,000 in management. We have the employment level within the construction industry of the top tradespeople within the group. Their earnings. So this chart shows that for these particular occupations, an electrician may start at roughly $40,000, but through experience over time has the potential to earn upwards of $100,000. I mean, these are jobs that may not require a 4-year degree, where you can go and get a credential or some apprenticeship, and you may earn a very good living doing what you love. Labor market information can tell that story. This is just a map showing where the construction employment lies in its labor areas of New Jersey. So it goes on and on. It covers all of these 8 key industry clusters that David mentioned earlier. And it also, that's going to be slow. We have a regional section too, where if you're interested in just the northern section, you can learn more just about the northern section of New Jersey. The occupations most likely to be found in North Jersey versus the other 2 regions. Okay, so that's just one of our publications. We also have our industry cluster page. So David showed you our title slides of each, but for each of our, we'll have 8. The construction and energy will be coming. We have a full report. They're, like he said, 50, 60 pages, full detailed report, but not just table after table. Each table or chart is accompanied with analysis and storytelling so that the reader is engaged in the story. And our contacts are at the end, so if they have questions at the end, they can come back to us and we can delve even deeper into the data. These are really still just high-level reports. We can really dive deeper into the labor market information. On that page, we have our contact sheet. Joanne and myself run the labor market information unit. We have folks who many of you may recognize some of these names in the northern, central, or southern region, or we also have analysts who focus on particular industries. Okay. So I want to close by jumping into another thing that the Commissioner mentioned earlier, which was the industry valued credential list. And that can be accessed through the Career Connections portal. So you all heard plan, prepare, and succeed. We have a very clean, modern looking website. And Patty and Bob did a great job, and their folks. If you go under the Prepare tab, you'll see highlighted right on top under Update Your Skills, Industry Valued Credentials. And here we have both, there are 198 in total right now. The Industry Valued Credential list is and will be intended to be a living document. We'll continue to take feedback from employers, from stakeholders, and if a case is made that a particular credential is not on the list for whatever reason but shows particular value in the industry, we'll consider it for future addition to the list. We update this list each quarter. We meet with a credential review board made up of heads of the Department of Education, Higher Education, Labor, and several of our local stakeholders. And lastly, I'll close by saying that the document is also available in a PDF version if you'd like to print out. Judan and her folks did a great job on this as well. And all the information that's provided online is also available. There's a lot of lead into it. So here we mentioned the credential, the agency where you can receive the credential, and the type of credential that it may be. So with that, I'll turn it over to Patty, and she can give you a demonstration of the Career Connections website.
Great, thank you, Jason. In the time we have left, I will do a brief walkthrough of a couple of sections of the website, and then we'll have some time for Q&A so we can answer any questions you may have. So the first thing I would like to mention is that the web address is careerconnections.nj.gov. I see some writing, so I'll wait a moment. A couple of things I would like to mention. The website is Section 508 compliant, which means that the website is accessible for users with disabilities. In addition, we are looking into the future to make our website available in multiple languages. We are waiting for the state to award a contract to a vendor who will do language translation for all the state's websites. So once we know where that's headed, we will work towards making our website available in many languages, as opposed to having Google Translate, which, for those of you who are familiar, doesn't translate very well, unfortunately. Another thing when we were building the website, we wanted to consider that our users will access information in different ways. So as Jason showed previously, you see plan, prepare, and succeed in the topics underneath. But you go further down the page, you have another avenue to access the information. And again, as Bob had mentioned earlier, the website is optimized for mobile devices. So the website will display just fine whether on your cell phone, your tablet, a laptop, or a regular PC. One feature I would like to show, and that we had, when we were building the website, we received a lot of feedback on where should I begin? Even though we were really big on saying that, this isn't prescribed necessarily. Everyone has their own individual path to whatever goal they may have. But we received a lot of requests to have a starting point. So we have this feature called Don't Know Where to Start, which takes you to our Need Help Getting Started page. So what we have our users do is answer a few easy questions, and then we guide them on a path. We offer recommendations on pages they should visit, and also different options. So I'll go through this briefly. So the first question, are you currently unemployed? Say yes. Are you collecting unemployment? I'll say no. Do you need immediate services? Say no. For how long have you been unemployed? Say more than a year. And we go on our 3-step path. So here we have plan. We have recommendations, and if you click on each one of these, you'll get a description, and it will then take you to that page. And then for here, we have our recommendations and our options. As you go further down, we offer additional resources. And here's prepare. It's the same thing. Again, we have recommendations and options. We'll also advertise our upcoming events. And then finally, we have succeed. So we'll go back. Another thing we wanted to show on our map was our one-stop career center locations and our library locations. So you can zoom in, can pick a location here. For example, the One-Stop Career Center in Burlington County, we have their address, telephone number, available services, and also a link to Google Maps where you can get directions. Our orange pinpoints are for our libraries. Again, similar information. Another thing that Bob had focused on earlier in our presentation was about the hidden job market in networking. So we wanted to highlight that here. So this will take you to all of our topics under Master the Art of Networking. You have understanding social media, cleaning up your digital footprint, identifying and building your job search network, networking conversations, and identifying and preparing your professional references. If you click on one of our links, it will take you to more information on that topic. We also, in the spirit of making the website interactive, we do include a lot of references and guides that you can download, you can print. Again, recognizing that we have our users who are very comfortable with the digital technology, but we also have users who prefer to have paper. So we do like to make both options available. Go back to the home page. We also wanted to spend time on our website highlighting content that was very specific to some groups that we serve, such as job seekers with disabilities, youth, ex-offenders, veterans, displaced homemakers, and mature workers. I'm going to go here to move to the youth section. We have a lot of content here that may be relevant to the students you serve, but I can tell you that we are building out our additional student content as we speak to ensure that we have information available to students of all ages. So for example, if I'm a high school junior or senior, I can click next step and find access to information, not only for programs and services that are offered through our department, but through other resources as well. We acknowledge that we don't run every program, and we know that there are resources out there that that are very valuable. So we wanted to make sure that we had all the information in one place, even if it's not ours. So we'll go back here. One more. Okay. Another thing we wanted to do in building our website was that we wanted to include what we call our profiles of success, where we tell the story of a job seeker, whether it's a one-stop career center client, a library patron, anyone who is part of the New Jersey Career Connections network. We wanted to be able to tell their story. So this is Shahid. He is a one-stop career center client. And just to walk through this very briefly, he was interviewed, and you can see his interview here. In addition, we also wanted to highlight the resources that Shahid used to help him get a job. We do try to update our profiles on a quarterly basis. We do collect them. So, Shahid's been up here since October, so there should be a new one very shortly. And as we get closer to the bottom of our page, we do highlight some of our programs and services, including Jersey Job Club, job fairs, and occupational training. I will show a couple. Actually, I'm going to go back up to the top. So not only is New Jersey Career Connections for job seekers, it's also for our business community. So we did build it's a similar functionality, similar different topics for our business and an employer audience. So instead of plan, prepare, succeed, you have recruit, hire, partners, and resources. And again, the functionality is very similar. So with different topics. And here we have information on our talent networks, as David showed not that long ago. We have our pinpoints for our one-stop career centers. We have a section here focused on receiving one-on-one help with your hiring needs, where we have our list of our business representatives located throughout the state, where they're located, their email, their telephone, and if you wanted to print the list, that was a recommendation that we had received, that the lists are also printable. We also have our calendar of upcoming events. A couple more things I wanted to show before we move into our Q&A. The first thing is that if you are working with students or clients, or they're working on their own with the website and they need help, we do have a team that provides support. We have our FAQ page, where we do try to cover as many questions as we've received since the website launched in July of 2016. But again, if you need to reach us, we have our contact us form. All of these forms come to our team, and we do respond pretty quickly. In addition, we love feedback. So we are very big on collecting it. We are very big on acting on it. When we built the website, we had worked with many, many different partners and entities throughout the state. We had a partner team that consisted of state and county employees, community college employees, and then once we had built the website, prior to it being launched, we tested the website at 10 one-stop career centers. And when the website was tested, we received over 500 pieces of feedback, the most of which we were able to act on. So like I said, we are very into this continuous feedback loop. Every piece of feedback we receive, we review, and we try to implement. So that was all I had to show. Does anyone have any questions? Is there anything I can show on the website or that you're curious? Do we have it? I'm happy to answer that. Yes, sir.
I was wondering why your career clusters things that are only growing on private sector jobs. Most of my students aspire to public sector jobs as well, and I think building clusters, including both, would be more credible and less biased. Those 7 clusters, you said, were just based on private sector jobs, and that's cute, but there are a lot of other jobs out there as well. I'm wondering why you only focused on private sector.
That's a very good question. And honestly, I have to get back to you. There's a lot of, just good information out there about what happens in private industry, and that's kind of what we're focused on. And again, like I said earlier, those 7 are kind of the main industry in the state that
Public employers, I work in Newark, public sector is the largest source of employment.
It's worth noting that the organization around those industry clusters does not preclude any of the job opportunities or information in the public sector from being represented in the Career Connections materials. These are just investments in those particular industries for other activities that we do, but there's no exclusion of all opportunities on all of our career preparatory information.
As a counselor, it would be more useful if I could present a less biased perspective.
Yes, sir.
You have a search feature on the website that will take you to different categories.
We do on what we call our article pages, the pages where you have more detailed information. I will go here, for example. We do have a search bar here.
So in the different sections, you have to go and search.
Well, I could type,
There's not a general search feature for the website as total.
this would be I could type anything in here, and it will bring up any, let's see, I'll just type in college. And it will take me, we have our search feature here.
Does that take you to areas of the website?
Yes. Yeah, these are all links within the New Jersey Career Connections website. So if I click recent college graduates, I typed college as my search, I would go to my recent college graduates page.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Hang on one. For each kid I counsel, I go to 2 sites. I have to go to an ASCINET site on the internet to get the current, salary for that kid. And then I go to the occupational handbook to get a profile of the whole job, what it's about. Do you offer 2 in 1 here or something like that? At one stop?
I will show you what we do offer. Thanks to our friends at the Department of Education, we were able to get this information from NJCAN.
While Patty goes to that page, I will also point out that there was a technology survey offered as part of your experience here today. One of the reasons that we are focusing, but we focused our questions on technology, is because we've been hearing for quite some time that there are a collection of resources that we are all dependent upon and use for a variety of different reasons. And we're looking for ways to perhaps unify that under one platform so that it can happen quite quickly. And the survey that you guys were all given is really helpful information gathering for us to see what are the user trends and what case could be made for such a product.
So I hope this answers your question. A lot of that information we do have on our Understand the Job Market page.
But that's just about the job market, it's not about the education needed to get those jobs?
Oh, I'm getting there.
Okay, I was gonna say, that's important too.
Now, I will tell you that we are continuing to build out our Career Pathways content every day, so please be on the lookout. We also, you'll see on our homepage sometimes we have announcements, so you would see that as well if we had a new feature or an update. But this is the information we have at this time.
So I want to link this, can you go back to,
Sure.
prepare? Sure. If I want to link Explore Careers to my career counseling webpage, I can go right, could you go there?
Sure. Oh, sorry.
Can I link directly to this?
Absolutely.
Any other questions?
Rebecca?
I just had a question in the youth portion. Is there an area, I know it was kind of by grade level, but is there anywhere where it connects to the county vocational schools?
Not yet.
Okay.
But we have received a good amount of feedback on that.
Okay.
So again, we are continuing to build that content out.
Thank you.
Thank you.